teaching their children, just make sure you can mute yourselves for a bit. It would cut down the background noise. So basically, he talks about how a person's identity consists of beliefs, ideals, and values. And these are the very core things that all of us at VBS deal with, right? When we're trying to teach the children, we're trying to address that area of a child's development. So basically, we're trying to help the child form a Bible based identity and understanding of who they are in Christ. So it's not a very general personality development kind of a thing that we try to do at VBS, right? And in a sense, we try to reach out to the very core of a person's belief and their ideals and values. And this image is not too clear, but basically, for you to keep in mind based on the classes that you're teaching. Yeah, so you have preschool or the toddler class where it's initiative versus guilt, where they're very enthusiastic, they want to try everything and they're still learning about themselves. So, in your lessons, keep in mind that sometimes they just want to say no just to be heard. They might not mean it, but they'll say those things just to get your attention or things like that. So, there are certain power, control over environment, and success gives them a sense of purpose. And if they fail, they feel like they're not loved or disapproved or guilt in a way. So those things you'll have to keep in mind, especially because you can't, literally have them in front of you. And if something goes wrong, in a regular setup, you could go to them and talk to them and sit with them and say what happened, are you okay, like that. But just to be sensitive that in this online format, that before we get to a place where you have to go back and see if something's okay, that you could that we would be careful in how we address those things, yeah. And basically, the school years in standard 1 to, in this case, will be about 7 or 8, I think. Yeah, so you have uh, industry versus inferiority. Basically, what they're going through as a part of their developmental stage is they are starting to adapt with new academic and social demands. And basically, it's not yet in the stage where they're getting into pure pressure in the sense you have to deal with the teens like in the next stage. But here you already have like stronger bonds, especially with the toddlers. The dad and mom are like the center of their world in a way. Everything, say whatever mama dada says they'll do, or what the teachers say they'll do. Over here you find a little more autonomy, but also they're trying to balance out their friends and academics. And this is the best age to teach, I think, because you don't have the extra hormones of the teenagers, and you don't have the, oh, they're too small, they don't know that variety. So, personally, I think that's a great age to teach. And when they succeed in what they're doing, they feel competent and they're encouraged to do more. And if they feel like they failed in a bit, if it affects their identity of themselves, how they see themselves, or they question their capabilities. Yeah. And ages 12 to 18, which is more or less your teenagers and high school and college class. Here you have the major tips that go on between parents and the teens, because now everything revolves around their friends and what the friends have to say, or their approval is more external than on, their focus is more external centered than on themselves, because what will others say? So you will struggle, especially with the senior class, because a lot of them will go off their video. They don't want to be on video. They don't want to, like, that they're, like, if you ask them to say something, they will respond, but you won't see them as such. So, like, so that's a bit, it's a part of their age. And I think some of us also, older ones, have that as well. So basically, it's identity versus role confusion. Am I a teenager? Am I an adult? Where do I fit in? How do I fit in? And this is a little more enhanced, especially in the online format, because they're not really interacting with each other. So it works in a way, works well in a way for the college or the senior teachers, because you don't have the crosstalk in class where everyone's talking between themselves and then you have to get them back and things like that. So in a way, the advantage is that they're in front of you and they can't have cross talks. But the disadvantage is you might not know what they're actually up to when their videos off. Yeah. And basically they develop self and they understand their identity better. They're trying to figure it out. And success is there, they continue to be genuine or honest. And if they fail, then you might have like those facades. So one type in one set of people, another identity with another. So church face may be different from I'm out having a drink with my friends kind of a face and things like that. So just to keep those things in mind when you're working with them. This is basically,
Preeti,
yes,
just want to add. So,
sure, sure.
I mean, because I have some experience working with kids in school at that age,
Okay.
I think what is important, and even like exploring this new format, is to kind of challenge them constantly, for our
Yeah,
senior teachers.
yeah,
I think challenging them kind of gives them something to look forward to because they like to prove themselves or they like to prove their abilities. So, if you kind like during your lessons, if you kind of challenge them with an activity or with a game, that
mm,
also kind of helps you keep in check if they're all online,
yeah,
as well as it'll kind of keep them up there in terms of their uh, concentration and
yeah.
attention span.
Yeah, and just keep it as interactive, like we said. No, so the whole point of us doing the teaching videos separately from the the WebEx session is so that you can keep it interactive. So you don't have to be conscious, and you're not conscious, and they're not conscious of saying, "Oh, this has to be used later." So you got your teaching video separately, so they can go and learn, or even go back and review it if they want to, like if they want like a recap. So it's going to be on the website. But yeah, so irrespective of what age you're teaching, just to make sure that it's like an interactive thing for them, and that it's age appropriate in that sense. Thanks, Fish. It was Michelle only, no? Okay. Uh, an easy way of understanding it, it might look complicated, but it's not as complicated as it looks. Basically, how we learn. So just to keep in mind, we all start here. This unconscious incompetence. It's like I'm going to use Ella as an example. So if she sees a cycle, when she was much younger, she didn't know how to ride a bicycle. But she knew, so when she saw a bicycle and she saw someone on it, she knew that there was something like that. So that was her stage one, where she didn't know what it was and she didn't know how to do it. But then when she saw it, she moved into this place where she knew, okay, there's a cycle and I can get on it, but I don't know yet. Yeah, so there she moved from ignorance in that sense to awareness. So you move from, so then when we got her, say, a tricycle at home, she moved from conscious knowing there's a cycle but not able to cycle to being know to the place of being conscious of a cycle and competence. So you can think of, say, children with training wheels, cycles, right? So she moved from conscious to incompetence to competence. So she eventually figured out that there's a tricycle and that if she pedals, she can go forward. And so it was practice that got her there. But then after a point, you will see kids on, say, cycles without training wheels, and after a point, their hands are also not on the handle like it should be because they've moved based on their experience and practice to a place where they can do it without being conscious. So now, if you put an older kid on a cycle, they will cycle happily, they'll balance themselves, and they are competent to ride a cycle. So basically, it's that. Auntie Usha, you want to annotate something? You want to write on the screen? I'm getting some requests from you. Okay. Auntie Usha, are you there?
Just trying out different icons, clicking here. And I was also trying to do that. What is this? What is this? Inquisitiveness.
So when you're sending me annotate requests, it means you want to write on the screen.
Oh, okay. And then the other one, which says uh, task control.
Yeah, which means you can direct my slides, like because it's a
Oh,
PPT, yeah, or
okay.
whatever else, and you can manage it on your screen. So please don't give kids all those accesses, okay? Then they'll be changing and writing all over your screen and stuff. Learning cycle is happening, I see. This is the learning cycle in literal practice. Yeah. So just keep those things in mind. So whatever we're teaching, we want them to move from knowing, just knowing about God, to practicing it, to experiencing it on a level where it's not a thing that they consciously don't know or they're not aware of, but that whatever we teach them, that it would literally become a part of their lifestyles and who they are. Yeah, okay, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and most often VBS would focus on these fellows, the top ones, no? Would you agree? To become all that we can be, to be all that God wants us to be, those kind of things. But because of the pandemic, some of the children that some of us are privileged enough to not be on the bottom end of this chain. But please keep in mind that this might not be reality for all the kids who join it. Especially some of them might be just struggling, say, for food, or parents may be struggling in terms of work or being laid off or things like that. So just in your examples or your explanations, just make sure that you find a balance. Don't think that it's only the spiritual aspects of a person that we're addressing, but that there is the physiological need, there is a need for safety, there is a need for love and well-being, for esteem, for how we see ourselves in God's sight, and those things. That in that sense, it would be a holistic lesson that you're putting together for your students. Yeah. So just make sure that we realize when we address them that a lot has changed in the way we know the world or we understand the world, and how the world has changed for these children as well. And it might not even go back into being the normal that it used to be, and in a way to help them deal with that side of things, or the reality of things as they are for us now. Yeah. I wanted to do this, but I don't think we have the time. We lost a lot of time with the tech stuff today. But basically, I was going to ask you to take a sheet of paper or something and draw the picture of your favorite verse. Okay, maybe you can do it as homework. So take a sheet of paper. On that sheet, I want you to think of your favorite verse and draw images from that verse and post it on the group. We'll all try and guess what the verse is. Okay, we'll do that on the group today. We don't have time to do this now, but yeah. And basically, this is going to be harder because it's online. Is the energy focus matrix. If a child is disinterested, they're going to be low on focus, they're going to be low on energy. But if you make your lessons interesting and interactive, they can move. Basically, you want them to move into the productive area. So if there is no focus, no energy, they're disinterested. If there is focus but uh, no energy, then they're disengaged. But if there is high energy and there is no focus in learning, then they'll be distracted. But we're aiming for this section where there is a good energy level and there is a good focus in terms of how you teach them and keep your lessons interactive and keep them engaged during your session. Then we will be in the productive quadrant where we want to be. Yeah. And I said I'll share what is it? Any questions so far? We've lost quite a bit of time from what we were supposed to do. Any questions with the content or anything so far? Yes.
If parents have difficulty accessing it, who's going to help them? Because uh, personally, I would find the technical issues very difficult, right?
Yeah, so that's the reason we have like 3 teachers. So while one person is focusing on the lesson, if say, for
Okay.
example, if you're sharing, then your co-teachers on your group can help like checking on the messages or replying to them on WhatsApp and things like that. Okay, which is why
Okay,
we
so we
need
have
your co-teachers to be online as well. So if
Yeah, I'll be there to
okay,
help you on that so that your class won't get disturbed, Amrita. You and Janima can take the teaching part. I'll take the parents who'll come with the technical issues or any doubts. I'll clarify.
so if
Okay,
it comes
Susan.
down to using Zoom, then I can help you out with that bit because you'll be using my
Hmm.
ID. I can set it up for you. So then I can help you on that bit. This is for the toddlers class, but I can't offer the same for the others. I'm sorry. Maybe from the standard 5 to 12, if one of you want to use, if you all want to use Zoom, then one more person can use it in the evening. Because one time you can use my ID in the morning and I can set up one more in the evening for you guys. So if there's any particular class that wants to switch to Zoom instead of WebEx, then I can help you out. So you all check with your parents or whatever. I know that Satish and Michelle can't use because Satish is not allowed WebEx. So that class might not. So the others, if you all want to use, then I can help you with one bit, one class in the evening. Yeah. Wait. Anything else? But yeah, otherwise, basically, your co-teachers will help you with that. They are the ones who will help you. So if one person is teaching, the other teacher or your co-teacher at that time can help you keep a check of things. Okay, so this is the video things that we wanted you to keep in mind. Basically, to have a steady video. Yeah. So make sure if you're recording it on your phone or on a laptop, it will stay. But if it's your phone, make sure you rest it against something so that your phone is not moving around. Yeah, so balance it on a big book or something like that. So just make sure that it's staying and it's not a shaky video, basically, in that sense. So basically, don't hold the camera in your hands. Place it in a position so that where you can come in clear and your picture's clear. So it's not your, I don't know, different parts of your face or anything. Make sure that it's clear for everyone. So at a safe distance from the camera and things like that. Yeah. So make sure that. So one of the things that you can do is make one video with the entire lesson without looking that side, this side, trying to find props and things like that. This is for the teaching videos, okay? If you're looking at using something, don't go pick it up and come and then do all of that. Basically, what you can do is you can just record your whole lesson and whatever bits you want to show, and you can take say a picture of it and send it to the tech team and they'll put it in for you. Basically, not to have too much movement of you, like how, say, if I get up now to go switch off the light and come back, and then that those kind of disturbances in your video. And if you're using a laptop, for example, then you can switch between PPT and just talking. I think that's what I did in my sample video that I sent. So I was just switching from one screen to the next one without me physically running around, say, holding up a prop or things like that. Okay. And that's what this secret is. Basically, presentation, not just pictures and videos, can be inserted to the main video that you record and send. And you can alternatively send it separately and tell them where to insert it. Like we said, timestamps. Like last time we said, no? When you make your video, send the tech team timestamps. At 1 minute, 10 seconds, put this image. At 3 minutes, 20 seconds, put this image, or things like that. And good lighting, low noise. Good lighting is essential, that it's in front of you and not at the back. Make sure that there's not too much, we can't avoid it, but as to the best that we can, that you avoid background noise. And it says open windows, it picks up more background noise than we realize. So maybe to sit in a quieter place, quieter part of your home maybe, and to record it. And another way to minimize effect of noise or background noise is to speak into the hands-free. because then it picks up clearly. Because if you're speaking into a laptop without a hands-free, then you have to speak louder, and you have to be much more louder than you would be normally. So if you have like a hands-free that you can use which has a mic, then that should take care of that. Sometimes we get stuck while making videos. So what you can do is you can either do shorter videos, take a break and come back and then continue from where you stopped. Or if you feel you want to keep it continuous, if you feel like you've made a mistake or somewhere in between, just take like a 4-second pause. So just stop for 4 seconds and then continue from where you want to continue. So then you can go back and tell the tech team, say between these 4 seconds, you can edit out. So you can give them those bits to cut out and they'll cut it out for us. Yeah. Those are the things to keep in mind. I've sent you all the deadlines in terms of the videos. So hopefully your first one should already be ready, I think. No? Some of us are laughing. Yeah, so that's it from my side. I'm completely confident that y'all can do this without any anxiety or worry. Like I said, I'll have big pros at it now. And I think we've made enough mistakes together to learn collectively today. Yeah. Any questions so far?